It's the biggest party of the year. Or so they say. SummerSlam has become a fixture of the WWE calendar as one of the big four and has hosted some of the biggest matches in WWE history, like Bret vs. the British Bulldog, CM Punk vs. Jeff Hardy, and a personal favourite of mine, TLC 1. But with every good are equal bads. That's why I'm counting down WrestleBuddy's top 10 worst SummerSlam matches. Number 10. Lex Luger vs. Yokozuna from SummerSlam 1993. 1991 and 1992 had been great years for SummerSlam in the WWF, but unfortunately as 1993 came along and, well, the new generation happened, it all started to really dip. Full of teams having to fill up matches and some questionable events going on, it wasn't the most successful. The match featured Vince's first attempt at replicating Hogan, Lex Luger, but in quite the sticky situation. With Yokozuna needing to retain the title, but not having a heel go out winning the show, we end up with this mess. Even with the power of the Tokyo Dome, I don't think this one's getting 5 stars anytime soon. Number 9. Randy Savage and Zeus vs. Brutus, Beefcake and Hulk Hogan from SummerSlam 1989. Another horrid main event full of all the absolute nostalgic camp of 80s WWF and 80s wrestling as a whole can give you. Still doesn't make it good. Pretty much held together by Randy Savage, it featured him teaming with the fictional villain Zeus from the movie No Holds Barred. This meant that Tony Lister had to compete using such moves as the bear hug and the double axe handle. And when I say by such as, we mean only. I'm sure you can guess the result. The Barber and Hulk Hogan winning. Hogan then using a brick to beat up Sherry Martel. What a hero. Number 8. Nails vs. Virgil from SummerSlam 1992. SummerSlam 1992 is one of the more memorable pay-per-views, not least if you're like me and from the UK. In amongst all the great matches were 3 matches that were actually cut out of the US broadcast. A clash between ex-Demolition members in worst gimmick as Crush fought the Repo Man, but also Nails v Virgil. And as popular as Virgil was at the time, he was always subpar at best. Combine this with Nails being a gimmick pretty much only made for the Big Boss Man and only being good at one move, it made a short match at only 4 minutes really feel like quite the struggle. Rightfully forgotten, it was far from Virgil's best pay-per-view outing when he faced Ted DiBiase earlier that year, and let's just say that Nails is not quite as much of a talent as the $1 Million Man ever was. Number 7. Bray Wyatt vs. Kane, SummerSlam 2013. In a PG era of wrestling, few things get fans of hardcore wrestling, such as myself, get more excited than fire. Legendary images of Mick Foley, Terry Funk, and the Dudleys putting themselves or others through flaming tables have become iconic. Unfortunately, this match did not live up to that. Bray Wyatt made his progress to the main roster with a huge amount of hype, and his first match on pay-per-view was in a Ring of Fire match against Kane. It sounds really cool on paper, a really cool concept. Impressive way for Wyatt to debut spectacularly and feature Kane, who was a great tie-in to the stipulation, but in reality, we'd all rather forget it. Kane was nearing the end of his in-ring days and he was getting much more lumbering and his matches were reaching a much more plodding pace. The match mostly centered around Rowan and Harper trying to get involved and interfere in the match, but mostly failing. In the end, however, they got in, and it kind of ruined the stipulation, as well as making it seem like Bray needed much more help in his first match. For someone getting set on fire, we'd have to wait just a couple more years for that, at the hands of Randy Orton. Number 6. The Undertaker and Kane vs. DDP and Canyon from SummerSlam 2001. Who better than Canyon? Well, according to WWE at the time, basically anyone. A highlight of late WCW, joined by one of WCW's self-made megastars managing to beat the race of time when he started pro wrestling in his 30s. With unique offense and brilliant character work between them, you'd think that a move to the WWF would bring greener pastures, but unfortunately this was not the case. Turning down better money deals to sit at home for a premature run, for their faith in the angle, they got absolutely buried. An absolutely massive face at his peak, Diamond Dallas Page debuted as the stalker of the Undertaker's wife and was continually made to look like an absolute fool, with so many people getting pins over the former WCW champion. However, the worst was in this cage match at SummerSlam for the WCW and WWF tag titles, when the Brothers of Destruction in Kane and The Undertaker absolutely squashed DDP and Canyon as if they were nobodies, overall losing in just about 10 minutes. A huge fall from grace, Canyon and Page were made to look like absolute chumps, being buried on a huge stage where they could have been used as legitimate star power. Number 5. The Great Khali vs Batista from SummerSlam 2007. We can end this at the fact that the Great Khali was once a world champion in WWE. But to continue, when I mentioned the slow plodding pace earlier, this is another case. Batista has had some absolutely fantastic matches over the years, but the Great Khali really hindered this. Not working well with Batista's power style and not being able to provide the platform for Batista to really show off his absolute best. This match is only 7 minutes long, but it feels much, much longer. Number 4. The Undertaker vs Giant Gonzalez, SummerSlam 1993. No, we haven't transported you off to a list of the worst WrestleMania matches, we're still in SummerSlam, and they ran this one back. We've spoken before about how 1993 and the new generation fell way below the standards of previous years, and also future years, and this just proves it even further. Clearly the first bout must have been seen as a resounding success, enough for them to run it again. More bumps and a no DQ stipulation, being billed as a rest in peace match. It was better than their original, which is a bit like being told you're the best of the Sharknado movies. A Paul Bearer run-in where he came out with a black reef and clotheslined Harvey Whippleman and reclaimed the urn. This match ended with The Undertaker using his classic finisher, the top rope clothesline. I guess hitting a tombstone would have made Giant Gonzalez look just a bit too good. Number 3. Team WWE vs Team Nexus, SummerSlam 2010. At this point, it feels like everyone and their nan has suffered a burial at the hands of John Cena, going from Bray Wyatt to Damien Sandow, having their momentum stopped by Big Match John. But I would say no one has been bigger victims of this than the Nexus. At the time, the NXT call-ups felt like a genuinely fresh bit of WWE booking. Company dominating and running roughshod over everyone, wrestlers, ringside personnel, authority figures, and even commentators. Of course, once they got the money, they decided to ruin it at any chance for any financial gain, because who really wants more viewers? All signs pointed that the potential stars should win. Cena vouched that he should prevail and came back from a literal DDT on concrete to pin Justin Gabriel and submit Wade Barrett. Number 2. Mabel vs Diesel from SummerSlam 1995. Oh, new generation. Oh my. After having won King of the Ring 1995, beating a laughably weak bracket that saw Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker not even past the quarterfinals, Mabel promptly main evented SummerSlam 1995. This really was wrestling's dark ages, with some of the absolute this instant push to the top felt drastic and then some. The match was about as appetizing as a sandwich made of toothpaste, with a world champion who had a 9-month reign that didn't really draw much at all. In this match, Mabel legit injured Kevin Nash by dropping his full body weight on him, prompting a lengthy rest period and much more backstage heat on a worker who already had quite a bad reputation for injuring people. Number 1. The Undertaker vs The Undertaker from SummerSlam 1994. Davey Meltman gets a lot of flack for his rating system and often underrating matches with his star system, but -1 here is maybe even a little generous. After 1994's Royal Rumble, where The Undertaker was written off TV to have much needed surgery after working effectively a non-stop schedule after his debut, it was done by being put in a casket by Yokozuna and ascending to the heavens. And no, we're not going to explain that sentence. Anyhow, Ted DiBiase had claimed he'd brought out Undertaker, but Paul Bearer claimed he had the real Undertaker. The fake Taker being played by primetime Brian Lee, an ex-champion in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. He did resemble Taker and would go on to have a somewhat memorable ECW run, but none of that helped this match. Another sub 10-minute slog. This match was an absolute crime to those who have seen it. The Undertaker still in his kind of undead, unfeeling zombie mode at the time, so it was pretty robotic and soulless, with a lot of people not caring. The Undertaker may rule WrestleMania, but SummerSlam doesn't have quite the same record. So what puts this in the worst category? The match before was a scarce WWF 5-star match as Owen Hart took on Bray inside a steel cage and lives in the memories of wrestling fans forever. This match almost made a mockery of the tremendous cage match, but also mocked the amazing Hart vs. Hart feud, and made the title seem a bit of a joke, but forget all that. It's the biggest party of the summer. And that's our list. Are there any matches you think should have made the list? I've been Dan at the Sweet Chinwag Podcast, and you have been watching WrestleBuddy's Top 10s. See you next time!